Hello and welcome to my channel, The Future Empress. My name is Elisabeth Anna and this is the Booktube Newbie tag. I haven't really introduced myself yet, but I've made some videos, and that's because I didn't want to make this exact video before I was comfortable speaking or more experienced, I guess, in front of a camera. This would be a more fluent and easier video. I tend to not be able to speak in front of others, so I had to see how it went before I made this video, I guess. As I said, my name is Elisabeth Anna. It's an Icelandic name, that's why I pronounce it like I do, but you can call me whatever you want. My nickname is Lisa, so if that's what you want, just go for it. And I am 20 years old. I graduated what is equivalent of high school last year in spring, and since then I've been working 2 jobs. My main job is at an airport and my second job is at a vet clinic. I am saving up for a trip to South Korea for 5 months. And that's me, I guess. Oh, and as I said, I'm Icelandic, but I live in Denmark. I've lived here the past 14 years, I think it's 14 years now. Let's get into the questions of this tag. The first question is, why did you start this channel? So I started this channel because I wanted to have an outlet for my creativity side. Ever since I've graduated school, I haven't been able to find a proper outlet that I have time for and want to spend doing. So I've been thinking about making this channel for about two years, and now it's been over a year since I graduated. So I felt like I needed something to channel my creativity side, because my day job, my jobs, they aren't very creative. I clean at both places, so there's not any opportunity to be creative or create something worthwhile, and that's why I really have needed to find something that would challenge that side of me. And the second reason I wanted to make this channel is because I wanted to talk about books and maybe find a community where I could talk about the same books I've read and talk about what I thought about them, what they thought about them, if we have similar opinions, if we have different opinions. Just love reading as much as I do. That's why I made this channel. The next question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? So I actually don't like this question that much, because I think as long as you're you, and as long as you're not trying to be anybody else, I think that's unique enough. I don't think you should have something unique to be able to make a Booktube channel. I think it's a weird question, because I don't think there's anything unique about me per se. I'm gonna be me in front of the camera. I'm gonna be me in front of you guys. And that's the unique thing about me, I guess, because I'm me. The third question is, what are you most excited for about this channel? What I'm most excited about is the community. I've watched Booktube for over 2 years now, so I've seen quite a lot on Twitter and Instagram. You make friends within Booktube if you're willing, of course. You have to be seeking too, but it seems like such a nice and open community. Everybody is nice, and I can't wait to experience such an online community. Yeah, I guess. And I'm also very, very excited to talk about books. That's what. So the fourth question is, why do you love reading? I love reading because it can take me to whole other places without actually traveling. I love that the person I'm reading from can have so different circumstances than me, and I can learn so much from the person and learn what to do and what to not do, and just experience something I wouldn't be able to because I am from this country or I am this gender. But reading, you travel through books, and I think it's amazing that you're able to see other people's perspectives, you're able to see other people's worries and struggles, and just experience what other people might experience and learn from it, and be more open-minded and just more accepting of the world through books. You will get an insight of another person's perspective, and I think that's amazing. And also you can travel places. I live in Denmark. I was born in Iceland, so I know these places, but through books I can travel to America, I can travel to Australia, to the United Kingdom. I can travel anywhere through books, and I think that's just amazing, and that's one of the main reasons I love reading. Another reason I love reading is escapism, of course, because no matter how tough my day has been, I can come back home, open a book, and just get swallowed into that world, and it's just magical. You don't have to even read a fantasy book for reading to be magical. I think that's amazing. The fifth question is, what book or series got you into reading? So, my friend, I wasn't much of a reader, but I will cover that in a later question. But I wasn't much of a reader, and my friend, she was reading The Mortal Instruments, I remember clearly. I think it was in 10th grade or maybe 11th grade. And my friend, she was reading The Mortal Instruments, and she was on book 3. I think it was City of Glass, book 3. And there was a moment, you know what moment if you read book 3, but there was a moment between Magnus and Alec, and she had to talk about it, so she talked about it. I read the couple of pages so we could talk about the moment, and that's what made me hooked on them. So I read The Mortal Instruments purely because of Malik. I know that's not a very good reason, because I can't stand Clary. And Jace, he's a bit, yeah, I don't mind him, but he's not my favorite. So I read The Mortal Instruments through and through because of the side characters, and I actually just got hooked on storytelling, and I continued. And then I read The Hunger Games, and I loved The Hunger Games. Katniss, Peeta, everybody. I just loved Hunger Games, and yeah, that's what got me into reading. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Yeah, I don't actually know. I guess I have a couple of questions to a different kind of people. Like, to Books and Lala, I would ask, how the hell do you read so much? And to Jesse the reader, I would probably ask, how do you come up with all that content? He is crazy, but it's amazing. But yeah, I guess that is the questions I would ask my favorite booktubers. Oh, and Haley in Bookland. I wouldn't ask her anything, but I would say, it's okay. You're doing great. Next question is, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So, as I'm juggling 2 jobs, one main job and one part-time job, I don't have a lot of time. So I think the hardest to overcome for me is finding time to do this, finding time to film, finding time to edit. I have a lot of work hours, So it's gonna be hard for me to find time for this, but I'm gonna try my hardest because I actually like doing it. The next question is, when did you start reading? When I started reading The Mortal Instruments, that's when I really started reading. But as a kid, I never read actually, because being bilingual, or I don't know what's it called, but I speak Icelandic, and we moved to Norway before we moved to Denmark. So I could speak Icelandic, Norwegian, and then Danish at maybe the age of 7, 8 or something. I've lost a lot of my Norwegian now, but then I had 3 languages in my head, and I read really slowly. So in 4th grade, I got extra lessons because the teachers thought I couldn't read Danish properly. So that made my confidence in reading really go down. We then later found out that I could read Danish pretty well. I just read so slowly that they thought that I couldn't read properly. But I just read really slow. But that made me think I couldn't read. And I was afraid to pick up books because I was afraid that the kids in my class would pick on me because they thought I could read when I couldn't. So it took me a while to get over that stigma, and there was only a few books that I read as a kid. I remember I read the non-fictional books about the Bermuda Triangle and the science behind Frankenstein and such, but that was rarely, and that was like later, maybe in 7th grade. But I remember my teacher, in December she read aloud a few chapters every day for a Christmas calendar thing of a book called Djævelens Lærling from the series Djævlekrigen, and I just wanted to know what happened next, so I actually picked up the book number 2 in that series and actually read it, and that was in 8th grade. Yeah, 8th grade. And when I was to continue, I forgot, and then I never picked it up. But I actually read that book number 2, and that was one of my first experiences reading a book for my own enjoyment. And another series I read before The Mortal Instruments, when I really got into reading, that was The Famous Five. We had the first 10 books at home because my mom, she read them when she was a kid, or when she was young. So we had those at home, and then I started reading them, and I really enjoyed them because I was a kid that loved Scooby-Doo, and The Famous Five really reminded me of Scooby-Doo. Those are 2 series that I read, but I didn't tell anybody that I was reading them. I read them for my own enjoyment, and it was only when I started reading The Mortal Instruments in 2013, I think, that I started really getting into reading and buying books for my own enjoyment and reading them and just jumping down that rabbit hole. Yeah. And then the second last question is, where do you read? I read primarily in my bed. I read in the living room, on the couch, but that's rarely. Or I read at work. At my part-time job, I work alone, so I can go around listening to an audiobook while I clean. So that's where I get most of my audiobook listening done. But at my other work, in the breaks, I tend to read an ebook. I don't read anywhere else, actually. It's primarily just my bed. And the last question is, what kind of books do you like to read? I like to read fantasy, contemporary, science fiction, dystopian, almost every kind of book. I'm not the kind of person, if I see this is adult or this is a genre I don't read much from, I don't get disheartened or discouraged because of that, because I read openly. I don't define my reading by genres or such stuff, but my favorite genres are definitely fantasy and science fiction. Science fiction is one of my favorite genres, but it's actually a genre I haven't read so much from, weirdly. But I really love it. Whenever I pick up a book up that's science fiction, I almost always love it. And a fantasy, because I'm a very imaginative person, and fantasy is a very imaginative genre, of course, because it's made of worlds. It's fantasy, and that's amazing. But yeah, that was the last question, and I hope this says something about me, that you know me a bit more now. And yeah, I still don't know how to make an outro or an intro, that per se. So I'm just gonna thank you for watching, and I hope I see you soon. Bye.